Hello and welcome to ZTN News Blitz. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Owen Kaura. Let's take a look at our top stories. Employers and industry pray against lockdown escalation. The police set dogs on fleeing armed robbery mastermind. COVID-19 holds trials at magistrates' courts. And in sport, the Chevrons are defending 298 in the ongoing third one-day international. But first, Zimbabwe is now extending the COVID-19 vaccination exercise by allocating vaccines to private clinics and hospitals in infection hotspots. A private doctor can charge a nominal fee of 434 Zimbabwe dollars and a nurse 220 Zimbabwe dollars per injection. A senior official in the Ministry of Health and Child Care says more needs to be done in enforcing the current lockdown restrictions. This, he says, will tame the spreading of the virus, especially in high-density areas. Deputy Director of Lab Services in the Ministry of Health and Child Care, Dr. Raiva Simbi, speaks.
The whole idea of a lockdown is to break the cycle of infections. So you restrict movement, and so those that are sick will get well without infecting anyone in that period of the lockdown. So that's how then you break that cycle. But now, as we can see, there is still movement, and in some probably high-density areas, people are still crowded, and the lockdown measures are not really enforced. So we need to do more on the enforcement of the lockdown.
Now, players in the private sector are hoping government does not tighten COVID-19 regulations as the Delta variant spreads across the country. At the moment, Zimbabwe is on lockdown level 4 as authorities try to contain the virus. On Monday, the government slashed the number of staff physically reporting for duty to 10%, down from 40%. Employers say while this is a noble idea, they hope the measures will not become mandatory. Employers Confederation of Zimbabwe President Dr. Israel Murefu speaks.
If there's a new law that is going to be passed by government, obviously, as businesses, we have to comply. But we think that what has happened in government is their own decision, which is not an issue of compliance with any law. I think it is themselves taking measures to protect their own employees. And similarly, businesses can also take their own internal measures to protect their employee, depending on how they see the pandemic affecting their employees. But what we would expect is maybe consultation before any new law is gazetted. I think consultation can assist so that we are of the same mind, and whatever is going to be gazetted is something which everyone has had an input. But if government decides to act on its own, which it is entitled to do, we have got no option. We have to comply. But obviously that will have consequences on productivity and capacity utilization in company.
A Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries President Henry Ruzidzo echoed Dr. Murefu's sentiments.
Obviously, it will be difficult for industry, particularly production industry, to work at 10% of staffing, because the processes are such that you can't operate with less than the operators that are needed for certain machines. So it can present serious challenge. But what I imagine is expected to happen is that each business enterprise assesses the risk and take the necessary mitigatory measures to ensure that staff are safe.
And still with the pandemic, all magistrates' courts countrywide have been directed to deal with initial and urgent cases only. Trial and non-urgent cases have been halted with immediate effect, while the staff has been reduced from 40 to 30%. According to a memo seen by ZTN, these measures are meant to decongest the courts and curb the spread of COVID-19. Now, recently, several courtrooms countrywide were closed for fumigation and contact tracing after some staff members tested positive for COVID-19. Judicial Service Commission Secretary Walter Chikwana confirmed the development to ZTN.
We are having increases of COVID-19 infections all over in our courts. And you may have also noticed that the Public Service Commission has now reduced its work staff to even much lower levels. The idea really is to protect members of staff, to protect the public. That is an implication which is unavoidable. And at the moment, you cannot afford to worry about backlog. We worry more about the lives of our people.
Meanwhile, unvaccinated civil servants in Zimbabwe will not be allowed to board Public Service Commission buses to work, announcing a raft of measures meant to contain the spread of COVID-19. Public Service Secretary Ambassador Jonathan Utaonashi said government workers will only be allowed to board buses upon producing proof of vaccination. Now, some of the measures include reducing the number of government workers coming to work from 40% to just 10%. How will civil servants receive the latest measures? Well, we spoke to the Secretary of the Zimbabwe Confederation of Public Sector Trade Unions, David Zatsunga, who had this to say.
We have not really sat down to interrogate the secular and come up with a reasoned response. But this is a chicken and egg affair, in my estimation, in the sense that, yes, it should be really conscientious in terms of vaccination, to say one has a right to conscientiously object to be vaccinated. But at the same time, when you don't get vaccinated, you also have a responsibility towards others to say you are coming to work and you have not been vaccinated when the opportunity to be vaccinated is there. And therefore you become a danger to others. So that's why I'm saying it's a chicken and egg affair where we are dealing with the individual freedoms, but we are also dealing with the collective interest, the common good.
And now on to our Crime Watch. A crack team of detectives set canines on a suspected notorious leader of an armed robbery gang in a joint intelligence-driven operation in Murewa at the weekend. Lazarus Chinobururuka was on the police's most wanted list in connection with over 10 armed robbery cases committed in Harare and Mashonaland East Province. Now, detectives tracked Chinobururuka to his rural home in Chinobururuka village under Chief Nyakuchena in Mudzi, where he had sought refuge. In one of the cases, Chinobururuka, together with his accomplices, allegedly attacked a Chinese national and got away with $60,000 in cash and $25,000 in valuables. Mashonaland East Provincial Police spokesperson Inspector Simon Chazovachi confirmed the arrest.
Zimbabwe Republic Police Murewa have recently busted a suspect who is believed to be a mastermind of armed robberies that have been happening countrywide, with Mashonaland East Province not spared. We want to appreciate the public for continuously supplying us with the relevant tip-offs, to which the police reacted in time and thereby managing to arrest the wanted criminal.
Now let's take a look at what's happening around the world. South Africa's Defense Minister Nosivio Mapisa-Nqakula's remarks that there is no evidence of insurrection or a coup attempt are not supported by facts. Well, that's according to Acting Minister in the Presidency, Nkumbuzo Ntshavheni. President Cyril Ramaphosa had earlier described last week's violence as a failed insurrection. But his defense minister contradicted the president during a parliamentary joint standing committee. We want to clarify that the position of government is as articulated by the president of an attempted insurrection, Ntshavheni said. That perspective is informed by discussions at the National Security Council, and he receives briefings from law enforcement agencies. Any contrary view, we don't know where it's coming from, and it's not supported by facts. Meanwhile, the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has dismissed with costs the EFF's application to have the bank statements of President Cyril Ramaphosa's CR17 campaign made public. The economic freedom fighters approached the court to force the disclosure of the statements in an application linked to the public prosecutor's invalidated reports on the CR17 campaign finances. And oil producers cartel OPEC and its allies have struck a much-anticipated deal to increase oil production to take advantage of a sharp rise in oil prices this year. The group, which includes Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Russia and the United Arab Emirates, will raise oil production by 400,000 barrels per day from August and by 2 million barrels per day by the end of the year. Billionaire Jeff Bezos will blast into space on Tuesday in the first crewed flight of his rocket ship, New Shepard. He will be accompanied by his brother Mark Bezos, Wally Funk, and an 82-year-old pioneer of the space race, as well as 18-year-old student. They will travel in a capsule with the biggest windows flown into space, offering stunning views of the Earth. New Shepard, built by Bezos' company Blue Origin, is designed to serve the burgeoning market for space tourism. And from space to sport, the long-feared possibility, that the COVID-19 pandemic could disrupt the Tokyo Olympics is rapidly emerging as a reality as game organizers scramble to deal with the rising load of athletes and officials who are testing positive upon arrival in Japan. According to reports, 71 people have now tested positive for COVID-19 at the Olympic Village. The question is, are the precautions there enough? We spoke to the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee Vice President Frederick Ndlovu about the situation in Tokyo.
The OCHA, the program that is used to track, your health situation from 14 days before departure, and then daily, and then just here we're going to be doing tests every day. We have just collected our 25 bottles for our samples for all our stay here. And that is how strict these guys are.
And on to cricket. Zimbabwe are defending 298 for victory in the third and final one-day international against Bangladesh at Harare Sports Club. The 50s from Regis Chakava, Sikandar Raza and Ryan Bell propelled the host to a competitive total. Now Bangladesh's chase is now on, and you can get the latest from our website, ztn.co.zw. And of course, you can also stay connected with us on Twitter at ZTN News, Instagram at ZTN. Thank you very much for watching.